What's up, War Rapport family? We are back with another great edition of Building Rapport. This week, we have a fun interview for you guys today. Joining us is one of the leaders of the Auburn Twitter mob, Auburn Memes. Memes, how are you doing, man?
Doing great. Excited to be here. Love jumping behind the mic. Just getting to talk a little ball. What's been happening. Appreciate y'all reaching out. Looking forward to having a real fun episode tonight.
All right, Memes, I got to ask you. Again, one of the leaders of the Auburn Twitter mob, you are officially recognized by the university as a positive force. Can you talk about what it's been like this season, particularly in basketball season, kind of, rallying the troops on Twitter?
Well, it's been, as you know, it's been a culmination of just a lot of letdowns, starting with getting the Final Four robbed from us from a double dribble. Getting losing what would have been a really exciting postseason to COVID, the NCAA just doing what they did to Sharif, and then you stack on having to take the self-imposed ban, and then still that cloud of the NCAA punishment looming over us, and then I think there was just a lot of pent up basketball energy because I think these fans and the players and the coaches all knew what this team was capable of doing. And we were just excited to support them and finally see it all come to fruition. So after a little bit longer a time than we'd have hoped, this team can really show what they're going to do in March. And it just happened to be that the fans are really ready to rally behind this thing. And we've kind of had this slow build on the internet for it. And now that the stars align perfectly for us, I mean, it has kind of created a monster that cannot be stopped on the internet. We're having a lot of fun with it. And we're excited that the university, the players, and coaches and really everybody, or I'd say opposing teams, because they I've heard from opposing fan bases that they get a good laugh out of these things too. So just getting to do what we do and just have fun with it, it just makes it one small part of a very exciting year. It's been a great part to be a part of and witness for Auburn.
Memes, you kind of already alluded to it, but I kind of want you to elaborate a little bit further on the reception from our opponents' fan bases as it pertains to Auburn Twitter taking on a life of its own. I've seen on Twitter people laugh at it. Some people get in their feelings about it. What's been the overall perception as it pertains to this emergence of Auburn Twitter?
Well, the absolute greatest was definitely at the beginning of the season. And this has been going on for years on smaller scales, but at the beginning of the season especially, other teams, teams that obviously are non-SEC opponents that we didn't play too much, like your UCFs, your St. Louis, etc., who would see just our ridiculous Twitter antics and especially the final score replies. There'd always be a handful of fans who would just, as you mentioned, get in their feels of, act like you've been there before. I can't believe you're doing this. Who do you think you beat? This is just this is a early season game. Why do y'all care so much? And just get all up in arms, just bent out of shape. And for us, I mean, that was like throwing a piece of meat to the lion's den. So we just got done blasting this tweet. We're like, all right, well, thanks for another one. Let's ride. And that's sort of what got this whole all right, we're going to hunt the ratio, because these folks would do this. And it was just giving us free content, but you could tell they were just so legitimately upset and this got under their skin so much. We just had to do it. But that was early on before people actually realized it was funny. So they thought it was all personal, which to me just made it probably the pinnacle of it because it was so genuine, because no one really knew about it but us. And now that it's gotten to be sort of a thing, got a little bit more recognized. I mean, there are people who tune in to the other team's final scores that Auburn's beat just to see what's Auburn going to do. And I've had a lot of people from various different followings and fan bases and media people reached out are I literally just look forward to those games being over so I can see what you guys are going to post. And I spend way too much time scrolling through those things, and it is absolutely hilarious. So I do feel like we've done pretty well with doing the having the mastery of the ratio, and it makes it a lot of fun. But that's the thing about it is as long as people can enjoy it, and we've gotten some secret word from under the table that the players also find some of these antics hilarious. So glad we can give them something to enjoy.
Memes, Auburn beat Alabama for the second time this season. And after the game, they ran from the ratio and shut off comments, deleted the posts, all kinds of stuff. What are your thoughts on the pettiness of the Alabama basketball social media people running from Auburn Twitter?
So that answer's still to be determined a little bit. I've got some secret intel that I'm milking on some folks on the inside from the other side of the rivalry who I'm pretty cordial with, and I was like, hey, because they know the folks that run these things personally. I said, we actually are demanding answers. Like, we need to know, was this a bit? Was this what they intended to do the whole time? Were they so shocked? I mean, there's a lot of things that we're thinking, but it just seemed like it was pure chaos because they posted the original score with the comments off. And we're not just an army, we're a well-trained army. So we had contingency plans for this because we circled it. Said, if anybody's going to do this, it's going to be Alabama. So, like, don't think we're going to sit there scratching our heads like, oh, we can't post memes. Like, no, we're going to get you memes. Like, you lost. You talked a lot of ish last year. Like, you're going to get your memes. You made your bed. Time to cash your check. Let's go. Let's lay in it.
Facts.
So, and that's the thing about it is, like, if Alabama had just, like, toned it down a little bit last year, this wouldn't be so bad. But, I mean, they didn't get it till, like, late December when they lost to Davidson. They're kind of like, uh-oh, maybe we're not going to be a 1 seed after all. Like, they weren't getting that for a while. Maybe Auburn's better than we thought they're going to be. So naturally, these things, I mean, there's a punishment for that type of thing. And that's coming in those Twitter replies. And you got to be put on blast for that. So we obviously they took it the first time. They got over 5,000. That's a healthy dose of what they needed to see. Ooh. And then come time the second time, we're waiting for that final score. And of course, the replies are off. So, I mean, that's just, it's like we're a fire. You just poured gasoline on it. So that's got people waiting. And then the tweet's deleted. We all saw what happened to Murray State. Like, it's not a secret to what happens when you do such a thing. Well, then they do it. They put the final score back. The replies are on. All right, they're doing the right thing. And even I'll even give props. Like, I know the Barstool Bama account was like, y'all need to turn the replies on. And it may, and this is what one theory too, Big Cat from Barstool was just blasting him on his thing. And he's got like 1.3 million followers. So then, of course, that's getting a little bit of national attention, like, because calling out Bama for cowards and turning off the replies. And he's retweeting some of the memes. So it's like, there's people across the country who need this content. And it is not fair for Bama to rob that from them. And I think it was total, the score got deleted 3 times, and they finally posted one and kept it. But people were quote tweeting it. People were just blasting random tweets on that page. But they did the right thing and kept it. But there was going to be a capital punishment had it been deleted or left off entirely. So they definitely dodged some pretty severe consequences for that. But needless to say, they were flying a little too close to the sun with that. But they still got theirs. I think all combined, it was somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 comments and memes. I would have wanted more, but if we play them in the SEC tournament, we're going to be counting real high then.
Memes. It's been a fun basketball season. Auburn is a 1-loss team up to this point. What is Auburn Twitter prepared to do in the event Auburn drops a game?
Well, I do want to bring up a point that Pablo made on Twitter. We are actually undefeated on U.S. continental soil. So if the game was played surrounded by an ocean, I don't know if that necessarily counts. It was also an overtime game. I don't know if that counts. So if you factor in multiple of these factors, we actually have one extra win. So it depends on how y'all do your math.
That's not good math.
I ran that by Jesse Newell. It made perfect sense to him.
I'm sure he did confirm that.
Yeah.
He confirmed the math. I mean, this guy.
He checked with Ken Palm.
He knows math better than anybody. So he ran it through. But we're running on a high right now. That's no lie. And we've been doing these spaces and we've kind of been talking to people and kind of letting everybody know. And we're trying to preach a little bit of level-headedness here. We're having fun and we're enjoying every moment of the season. Because let's be real, 2019 run, that came up pretty late. It was like February. Oh my God. And then it just happened. But I mean, this season, and I was saying this back in November, I said, guys, it's a special season, special team. Enjoy every second of it. Because these don't just come along every other year. And that's what I'm really trying to tell everybody to do. But in part of that too is like, you're going to lose SEC games. You're definitely going to lose some away games. You probably lose, well, definitely now at this point, because Auburn is the best team. So you're going to lose to a team that's not as good as you. It's going to be okay if it happens. It's good that the team lost early to kind of get that monkey off their back. So there's kind of no fear of like, oh no, we're playing with that -0 on our record. It's just like, you don't have to worry about it. I'm imagining that's just helping the folks a little bit, but just kind of from the fandom to not have the meltdown. And we maybe could say that Auburn fans could be maybe have been known to do that from time to time, overreact and get a little sensitive. Just kind of letting everybody know, like, it's going to be okay. There's probably 2, maybe even 3 losses still left on the schedule. They're going to happen. The team's going to be all right. We just want to bag this. The goal's here. We want to bag that regular season. We want to bag that championship. We want to get March. We want to get coach of the year. We want to get all these things. You lose a game or 2 here or there, all those things are still on the table. So that's what matters. That's what we're pushing for. And it's really just to kind of ease the nerves, let everybody know, like, we're still all right. Still keep tuning in, keep traveling to the games. Like, be as bought in as you ever have been. Don't be a fair weather fan. You ride or die with this team, win or lose.
Memes, you mentioned that the loss is inevitable. I'm not so sure. I think that maybe the UConn loss was the loss, depending on how you do your math. And some of these wins have been close to losses, but they've been able to pull them out in games where our star players have not had great games. The bench has stepped up. Secondary role players have stepped up. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about the idea that this team needs to lose to go deep into the tourney. I don't think so. I think, hey, good teams just win. It's what they do. But a lot of fans feel like we need to get a loss out of our system again before the SEC tourney. What do you think about that?
I think just looking at the way this team plays, and like, I hope there's no more losses in the regular season now. I hope there's no more losses this season, postseason included.
Right.
I'm just trying to kind of say at least, hey, maybe 2 to 3, just to help tamper the expectations, prepare for the worst, hope for the best type situation. Because if you're pumping too much sunshine in there, you just don't want people to be melting down. And more so telling that so fans don't just have a total come apart when something does happen. Like, it'll be all right. It'll be okay. It's not like football. Like, you can get a loss here or there and your season's not completely over. Because there's a lot of people that are still kind of tuned in to comparing too much of the happenings to football. But to have a loss to run further in the postseason, like, I don't think that's necessary. Just look at the way this team plays and the energy that they play with. And these guys, and you just hear the interviews with the players, like, they are so focused and they are so tuned in to what's going on right now. Like, I don't know if there's a way that you could motivate these guys to be more prepared and fired up to just seize every opportunity than they are right now.
So one of the conversations about Auburn Memes is that this Auburn basketball program is becoming a new blood. And how has been the attitude from your true blue bloods as it pertains to Auburn rising to the #1 ranking and actually becoming a force in college basketball? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, getting that contract figured out with Bruce and getting the staff and getting everybody taken care of, getting facilities and stuff, like, that's huge. Keep taking steps forward, solidify it. Have the Auburn basketball brand be just imprinted on kids that are playing basketball in elementary school right now. So when they grow up and they go to middle school and they go to high school, their whole lives, they've always remembered Auburn basketball as being elite year after year after year. You do that, and then you've got kids who are on the recruiting trail who weren't alive or don't remember Tony Barbie days and prior. That's what this is going to take. You really need that time period to get to that point. And there's a weird coaching transition right now. I mean, obviously you had Roy Williams retire. You got Coach K leaving. You've got a lot of these guys up there who are getting older, who are at these power schools. And there's definitely, with what the SEC is doing as a whole, there's a big shift at the top as far as like what's happening with the blue bloods and just, I guess, is there an official name for, like, I guess the second tier level of basketball schools?
That's weird.
You know?
Yeah.
I think we need to kind of have a team for that, but we'll just call them for, maybe the top, like, 6 through 15 historic basketball schools. Like, there's definitely people clawing to go up. I mean, we see what kind of happened with North Carolina. Like, they're in a weird little funk. So Auburn is at a point to where they can really capitalize. And I think the biggest thing with that is beating or getting right up there and just take it a step at a time, win the conference. Just be a top tier SEC school consistently, right up there with Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky's not going anywhere. There's way too much history. It's just not going to happen. but be a thorn in their side. Like Kentucky will never be a guaranteed win, or excuse me, Auburn will never be a guaranteed win over Kentucky ever again. Like that narrative needs to go away.
Right.
So just keeping that in the national presence and just sort of establishing that, because other schools can be in the hunt, and then really establishing that brand and that phrase as new blood, because you don't have a time machine. You can't replace decades and decades of history. So, but you can't control what you're going to do moving forward. And I mean, I think Auburn I think it's hard to argue that there's not many other programs in the position that Auburn is to just chug along moving forward, because in the past 4 or 5 plus years, I mean, they have been putting, minus unfortunate setbacks I mentioned earlier, I mean, they have been putting some very consistent basketball out there. That all starts with Bruce Pearl, but I mean, that's the consistency. It can't just be like 1, maybe 2 good years out of 5, and then it's kind of like, here. I mean, this just has to be consistently high, very, very high floor. And if they can do that, like, this could stick. And I mean, you talk about, could not be more excited for that.
Memes, I want to end this interview talking about the origins of the crane kick.
Oh, yeah. Let's get it.
Now, this has been a thing on social media where a lot of the Bama faithful feel like Auburn fans are imitating them. Auburn fans are saying, no, we're mocking you. There's a difference. Can you talk about how the crane kick started and the evolution of where it came from to Auburn fans embracing that and turning it into something positive, and the difference between, the thoughts from the two fan bases?
So I don't know the origins from like what was going on with like exactly when it started with the Alabama people. That's probably something I need to ask, just because a lot of stuff they do, it's very eye rolling to me, and that's kind of my nice way of saying
I
it.
think it was their football team. I think it was their football team doing it at the Iron Bowl or something. Maybe.
Was it? No, it was going on. Like, no, was it going on?
They were doing it before then.
It was before that. I just didn't know if it started this season or prior, like who started and why. Because I remember who did the bow for Auburn.
Was that what was the receiver? Waddle? Was that Waddle?
No.
Auburn.
The defensive end.
Sensei Mud.
Sensei Mud. Yeah, there you go.
But who?
Sensei Mud.
Yeah. So that was, and obviously that's a completely unrelated thing, but that kind of reminded me of the whole martial arts like aspect coming into football. So I'm not exactly sure the origin stories of where it happened with Alabama, but we do know it became very prevalent, and as most things they do, very annoying and just very over the top.
Right.
And it would start to get mocked, and obviously Alabama football did their fair share of winning. So if you create anything to be a thing, it's going to be used against you when it can. So it's like, it's amazing how they didn't know that. Like, Alabama fan base in sports has never mocked anybody before doing anything, and everything original they do just, that is theirs, and it's like they have some impunity to this, which is incredible to hear. But yeah, so obviously it happened at the Iron Bowl. The Auburn guys did it when they had a lot of momentum going forward. Unfortunately, the game didn't go the way it wanted to. You dish it back, then you get it back in your face, and you have the back and forth. We don't need to go into that. Tough times. But where it got a little spicy was, you obviously remember the Birmingham Bowl practice at Hoover High School and Cohen's infamous video where he's just randomly showing up in Hoover for some reason, doing his little crane thing, and then filming it and putting it on Twitter. And that had quite the blow up, as we remember. Well, so that kind of took it to another level of like, you beat Auburn in a very ugly game, considering how much of a better team and healthier team that you guys were. You proceed to go to a practice of a team who's not playing you, who you already beat, just to do that again, like out of your way to do it. It made no sense. And it was very much like okay, it's rivalry, haha. But like, if you're going to do, like, that's a big old check that you're trying to cash. And like, if things don't go right for Alabama, like maybe that is going to backfire. Well, roll into 2022, Alabama loses to Georgia, and it's been a lot of calamity for their athletic programs across the board. Auburn Twitter might be getting a little out of hand with some of their antics they're doing, and just, maybe a few pegs up the obnoxious scale, which I would have had nothing to do with. So any chance we got, it was just like, how can we do the crane kick? And then so we go into Coleman Coliseum. Would it be a surprise that Dylan Cardwell and KD might have been the first guys to throw the crane kick up after a awesome W there? And that, because Alabama fans really thought they were going to win that basketball game, and they were feeling pretty good about it. You're coming here, like y'all probably beat us in Auburn, but we're definitely, you're going. Coleman's a tough place to play in, despite the fact that Auburn pretty much had more fans there if you exclude students. But I digress. And then they're posting the locker room picture, and they just went on. I mean, Auburn is beating them in gymnastics, got them in ice hockey, basketball again. The cheerleaders are doing it. You're just having random schools doing it. And so, of course, Alabama people get all bent out of shape because it's their thing. All they want to be. It's like, no, we don't want to be you at all. We don't want anything to do with that. Like, if you're going to do something out of obsessive mockery like Cohen did, like, we're going to do it right back at you. And so we took things, as we have done in recent months, to a very high extreme to where it's just so obnoxiously annoying to them. They just don't want to see it anymore. And it's almost like kind of become our thing. I mean, you got Matt James from The Bachelor throwing it up on his Instagram post after the gymnastics meet. So Auburn has definitely been having a lot of fun with it. And that just makes the rivalry just that much more sweet. I mean, we saw Bruce Pearl did it. Oh man. And that just, I mean, Bruce Pearl can't do anything without them going nuts. So just seeing them having a come apart was like, I mean, it's kind of like, inject into these veins. So I'm all for it. I mean, it's hilarious. Oh, ha ha ha. When Cohen did it, but then when they get it back, I mean, they're just soft as sugar when it comes to that. And it's just like, well, he did something like obscenely, obnoxiously unnecessary, and y'all thought it was the funniest thing ever. When we do it back to you guys, like, you can't take it. It's like, you can't, if you want a dish, you're going to have to take a little bit. And it is very apparent that fan base just is a very one-way street with what they give and take.
Well, I want to thank Auburn Memes, co-leader of the Twitter mob, for joining us today. Memes, thanks for joining us. Well, that's it for another great edition of Building Rapport. Listen, if you want more content like this, hit like and subscribe on YouTube and every social media platform. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TW Rapport on TikTok. Guys, we're signing off. And as always, War Eagle.